Purchase Media.
A 5-year-old girl disappears in the middle of the night from a small house on a dirt road in rural Florida. The back door is propped open with a cinder block. Her blanket is found halfway down the ramp leading off the back porch. And the only person who was home with her, the teenage girlfriend of her father, keeps changing her story.
Investigators will spend years chasing tips, draining ponds, searching rivers, and cutting deals. They will get a confession, and then a retraction, and then silence. HaLeigh Cummings has never been found. Most of you probably have heard about this little girl before, but if you haven't, we're here to give her another voice, to not let her be forgotten.
Today, we're talking about HaLeigh Ann-Marie Cummings, a little girl who loved nail polish and mac and cheese, who had the cutest giggle you've ever heard, who called herself Little Mama because she loved taking care of her baby brother. She was 5 years old. She weighed 39 pounds, and she vanished on February 10th, 2009.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Gina, and this is Weird True Crime.
Before we get into what happened to HaLeigh, let's talk about who she was and where she came from.
It was the late 1990s when two teenagers, Ronald Cummings and Crystal Sheffield, met and started dating in Leesburg, Florida. Their relationship lasted through the mid-2000s, and during that time, they had 2 kids together. HaLeigh Ann-Marie Cummings was born on August 17, 2003. Her baby brother came along about 18 months after that.
By all accounts, HaLeigh was a happy, loving kid. Her family described her as always having a smile on her face. And that giggle. People who knew her couldn't stop talking about that giggle. She was the kind of little girl who mothered her baby brother, kept tabs on him, looked out for him. And that's why they called her Little Mama.
In 2005, Ronald and Crystal split up. The custody dispute got ugly fast. Ronald argued that Crystal used cocaine and wasn't responsible enough to care for the kids. Crystal argued that Ronald was a known drug dealer and a violent, impulsive man. The judge gave Ronald full custody, largely because his job offered the potential for benefits like health insurance, which Crystal, who was unemployed at the time, couldn't provide.
So Crystal moved to her mom's 30-acre farm in Baker County, near the Florida-Georgia border. She got to see the kids every other weekend, and Ronald took HaLeigh and her brother to Satsuma, Florida, a town about 90 miles north of Orlando.
The Cummings family lived on Green Lane in a neighborhood called Hermit's Cove, right along the St. Johns River. The Associated Press described the homes as hidden beneath towering trees, at the end of a sparsely populated rural dirt road. There was a big yard for the kids to run around in, and the river was only about 400 yards away.
For the next few years, Ron raised HaLeigh and her brother as a single dad. By most accounts, he was completely devoted to her. She was Daddy's little girl, and she went everywhere with him. With her curly blonde hair, brown eyes, and smile, it's easy to assume she had her dad wrapped around her little finger. Everyone who knew Ron, including investigators, said he was a doting father. He'd had some trouble with the law in the past, mostly drug-related, but nobody questioned how much he loved those kids.
In the fall of 2008, HaLeigh started kindergarten at Browning Pearce Elementary School. She loved school. She loved girly stuff, makeup, purses, and nail polish. She loved mac and cheese. She was, by every account, a completely normal, happy 5-year-old.
Ugh, and this hits way too close to home since I'm about to have a little 5-year-old myself. And then, around the time the school year started, Ronald met a 17-year-old named Misty Croslin at HaLeigh's school bus stop. Misty didn't have kids of her own. Her nephew got dropped off at the same stop. She wasn't your typical 17-year-old, though. She hadn't been in school since 7th grade, and she used drugs, which investigators would later note probably didn't bother Ronald much since he used them too.
I want to be careful here not to make it sound like everyone in Satsuma was a bad person. Multiple residents told the media that drug use was extremely common in the area. There wasn't a lot to do, and a lot of people were struggling. That's not an excuse, but it gives you some more context.
Before long, Misty was babysitting for HaLeigh and her brother. Then she and Ronald started dating. Then she moved in. Ronald's grandmother told the Florida Times-Union that the kids adored Misty, and that Misty seemed to adore them back. Misty herself said the children thought of her as their mother.
So that's the situation going into the first weekend of February 2009. HaLeigh is 5. Ronald works second shift at a bridge manufacturing company. And Misty Croslin, 17 years old, is the person responsible for the kids when he's not home. The fact that he's dating a 17-year-old who's not even a legal adult, who's also on drugs, which no judgment there, but you have an underage person living with an adult male, that situation is already very sus. And then you add to the fact that she is washing his children while she's under the influence of substances.
Toddlers.
Oh, man. That's horrifying.
On January 31st and February 1st, HaLeigh and her brother spent the weekend with their mom, Crystal. The following weekend, February 7th and 8th, they were supposed to be with Misty while Ronald worked.
That's not what happened.
Before the weekend even started, Misty and Ronald got into an argument, and Misty left. She didn't come back until the afternoon of February 9th. According to the Florida Times-Union, she spent those missing days at a friend's house on what they described as a drinking, drugs, and sex bender.
Ronald was understandably furious. He depended on Misty for childcare. He had to work, and he couldn't reach her. When he went to the friend's house, he was turned away. So he ended up calling his grandmother to watch the kids for that stretch of time.
When Misty finally showed back up on February 9th, she said she'd watch the kids so Ronald could go to work, and he left for his shift in the early evening.
What happened after that, between the time Ronald left and the time he came home at 3:25 in the morning, is known only to Misty Croslin.
Here's what we do know. At around 7:30 that evening, Ronald's grandmother stopped by to drop off clothing the kids had left at her place. When she got there, Misty, HaLeigh, and HaLeigh's brother were all out on the porch together eating. Everything seemed fine.
While Ronald was at work, he tried calling Misty 20 times to check on the kids. 20 times! He couldn't get through. So he called Misty's brother and asked him to drive by the house and see if everything was okay. I think I would have called her brother probably after the 5th time. But that's just me.
Here's where things get murky, and they stay murky, because Misty's brother gave 2 different stories. In one version, he went by and he and Misty smoked a joint together, time unknown. In another version, he went by around 9:45 at night, all the lights were off, he banged on the door, and nobody answered.
I'm sorry, what?
2 very, very different stories.
Completely opposite stories. Cool. He's sus too. That's awesome. Well, Ronald arrived home at around 3:25 in the morning. He walked in and found Misty frantic. She told him she couldn't find HaLeigh.
At 3:27 a.m., 2 minutes after Ronald got home, Misty called 911. She told the dispatcher, quote, "I just woke up and our back door is wide open and I can't find my daughter," end quote.
While Misty was on the phone, Ronald was tearing through the house, yelling HaLeigh's name. The dispatcher could hear him in the background.
The level of sheer terror that just reading about this instills in me, I can't even describe with words.
I can't imagine either. I mean, this hits so close to home for you, having a daughter just about the same age. This is a parent's worst nightmare.
So as the minutes ticked by, Ronald completely lost it. He got on the phone with the dispatcher and said, and I'm going to read this directly, quote, "I need somebody to get here now. I just got home from work. My 5-year-old daughter is gone. I need somebody to get here now. I'm telling you, if I find whoever has my daughter before you do, I will kill them. I don't care if I spend the rest of my life in prison. You can put that on recording. I don't care," end quote.
I can't say I blame him for saying any of those things.
Not even a little bit.
I don't know about you, but Corey and I have had conversations where it's like, if somebody ever did something to my kid, we would probably be in prison.
Patrick and I have had similar conversations.
Yeah.
Many
so
times.
It's very easy to relate to why he would say something like that. Can't blame him even a little bit. Deputies arrived at 3:40 a.m. They searched the house. No HaLeigh. No sign of forced entry anywhere. The only thing out of place? The back storm door was propped open with a cinder block. The main door was open a few inches. There was a piece of clothing or fabric near the cinder block. And about halfway down the ramp leading off the back door, HaLeigh's blanket.
Officers asked Misty what happened. She said she had put both kids to bed at around 8:15 p.m. in the king-size bed in the main bedroom. HaLeigh was wearing a pink Hannah Montana shirt, and Misty had tucked her blanket around her. After that, Misty said she spent a few hours watching movies and cleaning up. She joined the kids in bed sometime after 10 p.m. Before she went to sleep, she checked the door. It was locked, and all the lights were off.
At around 3 a.m., Misty said she woke up to get a drink of water. That's when she noticed the back door was propped open with the cinder block. She went back to the bedroom. HaLeigh was gone.
And then investigators asked why she didn't call 911 until Ronald walked in at 3:25. There was a 25-minute gap. Misty said she spent that time searching for HaLeigh. Under the beds.
I'm sorry, she had 25 minutes and she spent 25 minutes searching under the bed?
Oh, and when we get a little further, you'll really question that.
I knew as soon as we got into this that this was going to be bad news with this girl. She took a shower before the police arrived.
Right off the bat, investigators were suspicious. But they had a missing 5-year-old, so they had to get moving. Ronald and Misty were both taken to the station for separate interviews and then released. An Amber Alert went out at 9:30 a.m., and the FBI was brought in.
Multiple law enforcement agencies deployed to search for HaLeigh. They set up a perimeter, brought in bloodhounds and helicopters. The dogs led investigators towards the river, so they brought in boats. And here's the thing about the St. Johns River in that area. The tide runs through heavily. There are a lot of alligators, and investigators were told early on that the chances of finding a body there were, in their words, very, very slim.
Around 20 agents worked around the clock out of a command center set up near the Cummings home. They sealed off the entrance to the neighborhood and searched every vehicle leaving the area. They went door to door. They interviewed neighbors, but nobody had seen anything.
Here's where investigators started zeroing in on the physical evidence, or, more accurately, the lack of it. As mentioned before, the only indicator that something wasn't right was the propped open back door with the cinder block.
Ron had no clue where the cinder block had come from, but the police were able to determine that it had come from the water tank located outside the home. There was an impression in the ground that it had sort of been buried back there.
They tried to get touch DNA from the cinder block, and they found a small amount, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to identify who it came from. They also discovered a spot of HaLeigh's blood on a small mattress, just a smear on the side, but they weren't able to determine if it was from that night or not.
The drains from the bathroom were analyzed, and a small amount of blood was found, but they couldn't determine a match. Investigators also noted that there was no smell of cleaner. There was no sign of forced entry to any part of the home. Misty said she locked the door. So how did it get opened? And here's the thing about that back door. It was aluminum. When it closes, it slams. Investigators struggled to understand how someone propped it open from the outside, took a child, and left without making enough noise to wake anyone up.
And HaLeigh was not a quiet kid. She was vocal. If a stranger had grabbed her in the night, she would have screamed. That's the kind of child she was. The absence of any sound, any disturbance at all, led investigators to start doubting the stranger scenario almost immediately.
There was also the laundry situation. Right in front of the back door was a pile of laundry. If someone had come in that way, they would have had to step over or through it. The pile was completely undisturbed. And sitting on top of that pile, the pink Hannah Montana shirt Misty said HaLeigh had been wearing when she disappeared.
If HaLeigh left in the shirt, how did it end up in the laundry pile? And if she left without it, where did it go?
Oh, and those beds that Misty said she searched under, they were mattresses on the floor. There was nothing to look under.
My jaw is literally on the floor right now.
I told you, wait until a little bit longer.
Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, I spent 25 minutes searching under the bed, and I took a shower.
Oh, but the beds are on the floor, so there's nothing to look under. And there was blood found in the shower drain?
See, since they couldn't determine whose it was, you've
It could
nicked
be
yourself
explained away.
shaving.
Yeah.
Allergy season, nosebleeds run rampant. She's also a 5-year-old little girl. I can't tell you how many times Natasha walks in through the door and I'm like, oh, great, there's more blood. What happened this time? So that while it's unnerving, it's not necessarily damning.
True. It could be explained away, just like the blood on the mattress.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Especially if it's a tiny amount on the side. Like maybe she cut her foot or her hand, like her finger or something.
Or like I said, just a little nosebleed, just a drop.
Yeah.
Something.
Could be anything. It's still super sus, though. So within the first 24 hours, investigators are looking at no forced entry, a door that slams, a vocal child who made no sound, undisturbed laundry, a shirt that shouldn't be where it is, and beds that can't be searched under. The scene, investigators would later say, looked possibly staged.
And Misty's story was already starting to shift.
Before we get more into it, we're going to pause here and pick up in episode 2.
Don't worry, you won't have to wait long, as the episode is ready right now.
Until next time, stay safe.
And make good choices. Bye.
Bye.